This is Mental Health Nation. We're here in Westwood, Los Angeles, and today we're going to be talking about some of the detrimental effects of social media. And this can include everything from Facebook and Snapchat and Instagram. And of course, I'm not any kind of guru. I'm just sparking some kind of conversations, saying things from my own perspective. A lot of good benefits to social media. You can spark conversations with people you hadn't talked to in a while. You can communicate information. But I'm going to play devil's advocate in this video, and as someone who's cut off a lot of social media in the past, I kind of want to talk about some of the peace of mind it's brought me, and as well as some stats and some details on what it can do to you or the masses in general. Why I started this video is, I guess you can be at a place like at a concert or something, and I'm looking around, instead of people enjoying what's actually going on at the concert, living in the present moment, and just, you know, feeling the music, hearing the music for themselves, instead of doing that, they're on their phones with their Snapchat, just sharing the moment for others. So I think living in the present moment is something that I echo. It's, you know, something I've learned from people like Eckhart Tolle and things along those lines. And I'd much rather live for myself, living every moment for its own sake to the fullest, instead of trying to share that moment for the validation of others. Okay, so I'm going to break this down in about 3 major problems that I see with social media. Number 1 is how any of these can easily become an addiction, and it's actually been shown that Facebook usage, or the overusage of Facebook, can activate the same parts of the brain that many addictive things like drugs can activate. The University of Chicago showed this, and they also showed that it can actually be more addictive than cigarettes. And I've had friends who will literally start shaking if they haven't used, say, their Snapchat in a while. And it's almost like a withdrawal effect, right? They haven't used it so long, they have to get their hit again, and their body's telling them, on Snapchat, log in, and it's clearly becoming a problem. That's one of the things I see, kind of like these small dopamine kind of spikes that's making people come back to social media all of the time. And it's almost like sugar. When you eat too much sugar, your blood sugar drops, you get hypoglycemic, and you have to eat more sugar. It's kind of like that. You get a small dopamine spike of validation. The spike goes away, and the only way to reactivate, you know, those areas in the brain to make yourself feel good is by going back to the social media and, you know, trying to get those hits of the dopamine or the validation. So what are the long-term consequences of this? I don't really know. This is a fairly new science, but with any addiction, it's always going to be hard to cut back, and usually it gets worse over time. And the second problem I see with this is kind of the glorification, if you will, of the ego. And what I mean by this is kind of the mental image or identity we create for ourselves online. And basically you want to show the whole world who you are or are not, and you kind of strengthen this image or this ego on a daily basis by adding things, you know, different photos that encapsulate, highlight certain aspects of your life. You know, this may include, you know, different filters, different backgrounds, showing a skewed version of your life. So one of the problems with this is not only do you create your own kind of image or identity or ego, but you're also looking at the other identities of other people that they've created for themselves. And then what this leads to is a comparison kind of mindset or frame. So instead of collaborating, you're almost competing with these people to try to polish up your own image. It's actually been shown that regular use of social media can lead to symptoms of depression if the site triggered feelings of envy in the user. You know, in other words, if you felt jealous at any time. And 60% of Facebook users have actually felt inadequate or jealous from comparing themselves to other users at some point. So you can see the consequences or implications are potentially pretty important. And there was actually a study showing that the more time girls spent on Facebook, the more they suffered conditions of things like bulimia, anorexia, and negative physical self-images. So although the effects are subtle, the potential implications, I think, can be big. And the third problem is actually, paradoxically, loneliness. So people who spend the most time on social media have actually been shown to have the least human connections and the most loneliness. Okay? The larger the Facebook network in general, the greater the stress the person will have in their life. And these are all based on actual studies. So the last 30 years, the average number of close friends people have had in their life has decreased from 3 to 2. People are having less close friends in their life. And of course, the quality of the friendships probably is more important than the quantity. But how many of your 600 friends on Facebook are actually your real friends. So I don't want to just, leave you off on some kind of negative tangent here. So I'm going to give you 3 tips you can personally use to kind of buffer or regulate your use on social media. So number 1 will be to use it wisely. Basically to communicate information instead of just wasting time. So here's a nugget for students. Time spent sharing information on Facebook has been shown to actually increase GPA if you're sharing information, whereas time spent socializing on Facebook has been shown to reduce your GPA. Potentially more important than the GPA is the clarity of mind it can give you, basically the free time that it can open up in your life. So I personally cut back the use of Facebook and other kinds of social media significantly. It's bettered my life, and the free time is awesome. And 2 things you can do with that is you can download something called Newsfeed Eradicator for Google Chrome browser, and every time you log on Facebook, your entire newsfeed will be gone and replaced with like a cool quote, so you don't have to basically get in that hamster wheel of scrolling through your newsfeed. And the other thing you can do is, instead of logging on to Facebook.com, you can just log on to your own homepage, and that way you can check your own notifications, do your own messages and stuff like that, again, without being warped into that mode of wasting time on these things. Tip number 2 will be to remember that the stuff you see on Instagram and these other platforms are really just highlights of people's lives, and sometimes exaggerated versions of their lives. So it's important, really important, to not compare you to them, not comparing your pictures to them, your likes to them. Living in the present moment, enjoying your life for yourself is always going to trump some kind of external validation, thing. I mean, that's how I feel. And remembering this will help you keep a balanced mood when you use these platforms. And last tip is to be real. So avoid any kind of pseudo identity you attach yourself to or identify yourself with in terms of the pictures and stuff that you post on these things. And remember, it's okay to not be perfect. This is going to allow freedom in your life and allow you to kind of move through life with much less stress, when you are not identifying or attaching yourself with some kind of strange image that you've created. And to finish this off, social media can indeed be a great tool, but be conscious of when you're using it, okay? So use it and don't let it use you. All right, so that's all, folks. Subscribe to my channel. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.